Hey guys, welcome back to the Backhand Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vilches, and this is my co-host, John Hunt.
What's up?
He's finally joining me. So, just to give you guys a little recap of how we're going to be handling things, we're going to have a podcast releasing on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. My co-host, John, will be joining me on Monday and Wednesday. On Monday, we specifically talk about world news stuff that's happening in like world politics and stuff like that, but trying to give a more Christian worldview on that and keep you informed on everything that's going on. On Wednesdays, we talk about anything pop culture or entertainment based and try to give you more Christian perspective on that. And then Friday, sometimes Sean will join me, sometimes somebody else will join me, but specifically we'll be diving into the Word and just giving you a bigger and deeper knowledge into what we're studying, and so you have a more relationship with God. Specifically, we're studying Revelation right now, and the other person that will be helping with that, his name's Lincoln, so I can't wait for you guys to actually meet him. But until then, just give you a little recap. You want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. I'm John.
Wow.
I sit right here. That's about it. What else should I say about it?
Are you excited to talk?
No, I don't want to do this. Not at all. I feel like, no. No, I'm actually really excited to talk, and whenever I talk to people, I don't stop talking. And it's a new habit that I found, I think, at least. You can tell me if it's new or not, but I enjoy it, so I can ramble.
He can ramble a lot, so just wait until he starts rambling, because he will ramble a ton. Okay, so John.
Yes.
We're going to be talking specifically about some things that are happening in the world, about three different things, three different subjects. We're going to be talking about the China protest, the Iran protests, and the new Messiah.
Oh, I heard a little bit about that last one.
Yeah.
The other is going in dark with it.
Okay, so just give you a little recap of what's happening in China. In China, Vivek Sharnak in the New York Times wrote, in the eastern city of Hangzhou, a crowd of people gathered at a shopping mall but were closely watched by an even larger group of uniformed police officers. Now, these uniformed police officers, they're currently in China, they're wearing all hazmat suits. It's kind of creepy.
That's strange.
Yeah, well, it's because of all the COVID restrictions that's still going on today.
Jeez.
So, a woman was screaming as several of the officers took her away, according to the video circulating online. Onlookers shouted at the police. Some demonstrators this weekend has gone so far to call for the Communist Party and its leader Xi Jinping to step down. Many were fed up with Mr. Xi, who in October secured a president-defying third term as the party's general secretary, and his zero-COVID policy, which continues to disrupt everyday's life, hurt livelihoods, and isolate the country. The news spread fast on the Chinese internet. So in China, there's three different events that happen. So one, in the eastern city of Hangzhou, people are being arrested, and then on the west side of China, 10 people died last Thursday. So basically Thanksgiving for us.
Okay, from COVID? Or
No.
from something else?
So what happened was there was a fire in an apartment building in Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang, a region of 25 million people. They had been under lockdown for more than 3 months. This is the same region where a lot of the Muslim population was put into concentration camps, basically.
Oh, jeez.
So if you guys haven't heard that, you should totally research that, because that's actually kind of crazy. But I wanted to get your reaction on this. So there's some videos that are circulating around online. Once again, I would highly recommend you do your own research. Don't take everything we say as facts. We're just trying to give you guys some knowledge so you guys can talk about that. They're these particular area, they were welding the door shut or tying the door shut.
Can I see a video of it?
Yeah.
Bet. And then we'll probably put it up on the screen for them, just so they can see it as well. But
For the audio listeners.
yeah, for the audio listeners, just go look it up. But if you're watching this, then you'll probably get to see it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But no, if they're actually welding the door shut, what doors are they welding shut?
So they're apartment buildings.
So that they don't get out due to COVID.
Mm-hmm. Because of their
Oh jeez.
So they're tying it shut and everything like that.
Wow. And then that's the fire that killed everybody. Or the
Yeah.
10 people.
Yeah, and see how all the police officers are in their hazmat suits?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I don't know about you, but that's kind of creepy.
It is
A little
bit
low-key.
sus.
Yeah. So, what also happened was in another section in Shanghai, China's largest city, which is also in the eastern area, residents gathered at an intersection of Urumqi Road, named after the city in Zhejiang. So what happened? So these people heard what happened
Mm-hmm.
with the fire, so they all gathered at this road that was named after that city
Okay.
to mourn the dead, and they started chanting, "We want freedom." And some went on to call Mr. Xing's resignation. So they want this guy out. So Mr. Jinping is like the president of the Republic of China. Those victims, one protester said, how they died, we are all clear about that. Isn't that right? So basically the protesters are saying like, we know why this happened.
Mm-hmm.
We know what you're doing. And the protester said with flowers, according to the video posted on social media, an apparent reference to the tragedy in Urumqi. Soon after the people on social media nicknamed the person that said those victims, how they died, we're all clear about that, isn't that right? He was taken away by the police. And then, so going back into it, so what happened was these protesters were mourning the dead, but this guy who was talking about it on social media was arrested. But you know who else was arrested, which I find kind of even more sus? A BBC reporter was also arrested. And there is footage of that. And basically in this footage, he starts telling the people to start calling the embassy basically to make sure if I can find it. I'm probably not gonna find it. To be honest.
I just threw my phone inside. I'm gonna go grab my phone. I'm gonna look it up on YouTube.
So a BBC reporter gets arrested. Okay, in another part, demonstrators also gathered in the country's capital, with many students assembling in Tsinghua University in the northwest Beijing to denounce restrictions or their ability to get around. Hundreds of protesters also marched in Wuhan, the central Chinese city where the pandemic originated in late 2019. Crowds have also congregated in Chengdu.
I think I got it. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, this part right here. So,
Wow.
for audio listeners, basically the BBC reporter says, call the consulate now. So, just to give you guys a little drastic of what's going on in China right now, it's not just happening in one area, it's happening all over the country. There's a lot of protests starting to amass, and a lot of it's in the youth, is specifically having to do with their the no COVID, zero COVID policy. So they're restricting people, they're doing this. There's even creepy footage of, which look at this. These are drones
Yeah.
releasing like desanitizing stuff.
I mean,
Just-
it's efficient.
It's
I wish they
efficient.
do that with like mosquito repellent around here.
For real, okay, guys. In Texas, mosquitoes are the biggest nuisance in my life. If they had to be
they'll
able,
fly you away, bro. They'll take you away.
if they like put the repellent, I would actually be fired about that. So,
I should be fine. That's still recording, but we'll check it.
okay. So just guys, to give you a rundown, how do you personally feel? Like, as somebody that has no clue, hasn't heard any information about this at all, how does that make you feel, John? Like personally, like, does it upset you? Does it
It makes me grateful for one to live in this country, and I do well, like some of the stuff that we did during the COVID lockdown. Of course, it was like at the time we didn't know what it was, so it was definitely reasonable to do some of the stuff we did. But to that extent, welding people's doors shut, spraying basically aerosol, hand sanitizer, or just sanitization throughout the air. And it's like, of course, I grew up the way of like, oh, you get cut, scrape, you get sick, just rub some dirt on it. So that's kind of the mindset that I was. But of course, I wanted to make sure that everybody else around me was okay. I didn't want to get other people sick. So like, if I got sick, stayed inside. But to see that kind of government control is always scary and like eye-opening. Just because, let's see, how do I say this? It's eye-opening, and I feel for those people because they don't have the freedom that we do, but they're fighting for it, and it's cool to see that. But at what point, like in my mind, like what point do will they turn into what we did in the Revolutionary War, or will it? I don't know. Part of me is not excited, but interested in seeing, like, if these because I know the protests have been going on forever since Hong Kong, and probably further back, but in this situation, it seems to be ramping up. So I'm interested in seeing what happens next from that. But in my opinion, crazy stuff happens there all the time because of government control, and it makes me not want to have such government control here, or at least not massive government control. I like the tier system of city, state, government.
Another thing that the protesters are doing to display their protest, are they're holding up blank pieces of paper, just white sheets of paper, which is like kind of like what's going on here? So I was curious, and so I dived into it. The display of the wordless papers means we are voiceless, but we are also powerful, said Hazel Wu, a 29-year-old film producer who attended the vigil along the Lignamio River in Beijing on Sunday. Jiao Zhang, a researcher on the internet freedom at the University of California, Berkeley, people have a common message. They know what they want to express, and authorities know too, so people don't need to say anything. You hold a blank sheet, and everybody knows what you mean. Which is, in my opinion, kind of cool. Like a little low-key, like a little symbolism there, just a white piece of paper. But it does suck that the fact that they don't have the ability to voice what's going on, and they're being suppressed in that kind of sense. So,
no, it is crazy to think that, like, if they say something wrong, they get taken away by the police. If we say something wrong, we just go oops. Or depending on who you are, you get canceled.
Well, maybe for you.
For me, bro, get out of here. So it's like they have zero freedom of speech over there, and it brings me back to gratitude of being thankful for what we have where we're at. Like, we can state our opinions, we can talk and discuss freely. I think where we draw the line is hate speech, which I think is reasonable. If you say something that's hateful, you of course can say it, but there's consequences to what you say through a justice system. So it's always set up, and it's always done in public. It's never you're taken away and you never see it again. Now that could be dramatized from what they do, or from what it seems like China's doing, just taken away and you never see them again. Or they put them in a holding cell where there's a trial behind a closed curtain. We do it out in the open. So I think that's just another testament to where we live. So, yeah.
So that's what's happening in China. So prayers for them, because that's kind of crazy. And comment down below what you guys think and how you guys feel, and like have a lively discussion. Be nice though, please.
Yeah, we'd love to get your thoughts, your comments, everything like that. And we'd like to talk with y'all about that within the comments, just because we want it to be a community where we can talk about this stuff. But of course, do keep it clean and understand where people come from. So,
the second part of our news broadcast is what's happening in Iran. So this is coming from the BBC. So it all started on September 13th this year. The death of Masha Amini, a 22-year-old woman arrested by the morality police in Tehran for allegedly violating Iran's strict rules requiring women to cover their hair with a hijab or headscarf. There were reports that the officers beat her head with a baton. The police said she suffered a heart attack. To support their claim, the authorities released the footage of Miss Amin collapsing in the police station. But the clip, along with images of her in a coma, enraged ordinary Iranians. The first protest took place after Miss Amini's funeral in the western city of Saqqez when women ripped off their headscarves in solidarity. The BBC and other independent media are barred from reporting from inside Iran right now, making it difficult to verify what is claimed by the state media. Social media activists and human rights groups help to provide a picture of what's going on there, although authorities have disrupted internet and phone services. Iran Human Rights and Norway-based group has said at least 234 people, including 29 children, have been killed by security forces. Security forces have denied killing peaceful demonstrators, but they have been filmed firing live ammunition on the streets. So, just to give a full picture, somebody, Masha Amini, took off her job and was killed for it, violating their law. And because of it, a lot of people were protesting, but unfortunately, there's unlike China, even though China does suppress a lot of their information, we are getting information about what's going on there. But with Iran, there's none.
Wow.
Because they've completely suppressed it, they're not allowing any footage coming out. They won't let new reporters in. So, first of all, that's freaking nuts.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think it of the perspective of, okay, in their culture, especially since it's an Islamic state, wearing a hijab is part of their culture. They have to do that. And
Yes.
there's
the religious law.
yeah, and there's been a lot of times where there has been protests of not wanting to wear it anymore. Before I was watching a documentary over the Iranian hostage crisis, and where the Iranian people took over the American embassy, but before they took over the embassy, the Shah, who was the king of that basically the president, they were trying to indoctrinate a lot of Western influence into Iranian government, the Iranian culture, and so a lot of women would not wear their hijabs and everything like that. However, a lot of some of the youth and some people who are more strict on religious practices did not like that, and they didn't want any Western influence on there, and that's when they took over the American embassy, which was placed in Iran. And because of that, there's just it became a way more strict state on those religious laws, and it seems now they're picking up where they were left off of wanting to break out of that. So I don't know. What are your thoughts about this?
I mean, I heard about some of the protests. I think in October or September. Well, you said it started in September 13th.
September 13th.
Yeah, so I think late October is when I heard about the children going around knocking the hats off of the police officers. I believe
Religious
leaders, and then the religious police going after them, and in some cases firing the live ammunition, and that's just what I heard. But to me, well, again, I always bring it back to gratitude in realizing where we live and the freedoms that we have here, for our women to not have to wear a headdress, not to cover themselves up. They can wear what they want. But over there, seeing documentaries, seeing footage, of course I haven't been over there, but it seems to me there's, because of their either laws, religious laws, whatever it is, it seems that there's a lot of oppression towards women over there, which is, to me, insane. It's hard to think that they are forced to live a certain way. So, yeah, I don't think there's any solution where killing people is ever the answer, especially in that, but I do think it is. It's just crazy to me. So, but yeah.
What else is interesting is how this is also influencing the World Cup, because Iran is in the World Cup this year, and a lot of the people who are going to view the team play, they're actively trying to protest what's happening in their own country. I would do your own research on that and see how it's being referenced now. But of recent news, which I heard just today, was the American team, because we're facing them tomorrow. USA versus Iran. They posted US versus Iran, but the Iranian flag, which is I think green, white, red,
Yeah.
and in the middle is their emblem. Well, they posted it without the emblem, and they don't like that.
Oof.
So the government in Iran was like trying to get us disqualified because of that, because they said it was disrespectful.
That we posted it on our television like that?
Or I think on Instagram or something like that.
Oh.
Weird.
Yeah.
Right, but like if you want, but that's like a minor thing. But now like there's just a lot of protests happening in Qatar, particularly when it comes to this situation, which is super fascinating to see how people are inducing a lot of politics within soccer, especially around this time, around this country. So something to think about. It's kind of crazy. I have a question for you though.
All right.
As Christians, what should we do about this? Because I have a hard time, you know? Because we enjoy our liberties and the way that we operate here in America because of the freedoms that were given to us by our founding fathers. When I was living in Peru, it was not that way on certain areas, especially during COVID. There was major restrictions and lockdowns where the military patrolling the streets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing that I always struggle with going back and forth, because I would always hear Americans be like, well, if I was there, I would just start shooting and be like, I'm just going to get my freedom, which I totally commend, right? But one thing that always bothered me was specifically in Romans 13, 1-2, where it says, everyone must submit himself to their governing authorities, for there's no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, he who rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. Where also in 1 Peter 2:13-14, submit yourself for the Lord's sake to every authority instituted among men, whether to the king as the supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do not wrong and command those who do right. So, how do we go about this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if our government does this, I feel like it's our right to stand up for our rights. But what if we're in a government that already is like that? What do we do as Christians?
Well, I almost said Bible school. The Sunday school answer is to love one another. Of course, it's not that simple in this case. I do think our duty as Christians is to, of course, first of all, love God, love one another as ourselves. But at the end of the day, we need to take care of the people around us, take care of the widowed, the orphan, the injured, the less fortunate. We need to take care of the people that we can take care of. That's what I think James 1:12, I believe, where it says that basically ideal religion to God is to take care of the widowed and to take care of the orphaned. Basically, take care of the less fortunate. Now, when it comes to, do we fight for will it come to a point to where we fight for the less fortunate? Or
real quick, James 1:27.
At least I got the chapter right.
Yeah.
So I think the distinction is, where do we start to step up and fight for those freedoms, the basic human rights, which our founding fathers said freedom of speech, opinion, religion, like to practice what people believe without persecution. And they fought for that. And I believe if it's, I don't know, it is a hard question. I want to say, like, if it holds to the Bible standards, then I do think it's a good thing.
Because Jesus said in Matthew 22:20-21, give to Caesar what is Caesar and to God what is God's. But this is more referencing to taxation.
Yeah.
Which was like the Jewish leaders tried to entrap Jesus by like saying, hey, should we give this stuff to Caesar? You know, and Jesus perfectly answer like what is God's, give to God, which is with tithing, and what to give to the government, you can give to the government.
Here's something, or here's something that I thought of. If you want to change it, go ahead and try to change it, as long as it's within the Christian, or as long as it's within good ethics, morality. I would say the Christian belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And if God opens those doors for you to do that and to be successful, then I say that that's something that needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't really work out, then maybe just live in what's the word? Like be happy where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Like the verses that you read. Be submissive in that sense. If it doesn't work out, then just say, okay, let me focus on the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take care of the people that I can take care of. I tried to change it. It didn't work out the way that I tried. It doesn't mean stop trying, but it means focus on the people around you. Mm-hmm. Love the people around you. So I think that'd be what I think about that.
I agree with you. To give even more context, we can look at Daniel,
mm-hmm.
where Daniel was under the rule of the Babylonians, King
Nebuchadnezzar.
Thank you. I cannot pronounce some things. But in his rule, he rose in his ranks
mm-hmm.
by obeying what he says. However, he did not follow everything that was set in place, with like the diet also and stuff like that. And then but you see him obeying it, even like. But what's interesting is when he was thrown in the den of lions is when he disobeyed one rule, where it was the rule in Daniel 6:7 that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. So what happened was they tried to make a petition saying, if anybody prays to anybody else but you, king, you get cast in the lions. In Daniel 6:10, Daniel literally goes, no, I'm going to pray to God. Mm-hmm. And he prays to God. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home in his upper room with his windows open towards Jerusalem. He knelt down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since the early days. So I think as Christians, if it violates God's law, that's when we have the right to protest.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, I think we're not, in anything that you want to take part in, we're not called for chaos.
Mm-hmm.
That is never how it's been when God calls us to go. Well, like in the Old Testament, God called the Israelites to take the promised land or any of that. He never called them to chaos.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a clear, defined way to do it with organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you do it with organization, without causing chaos, confusion, to the best of your ability, of course, because people have different levels of understanding. But if you do it in that manner, then I think that's something that could be righteous.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is not saying, I don't feel like I don't want to misconstrue and say like, okay, if someone's violating your rights, you just don't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially here in America, we have that rights. That's kind of the authority that's been given to us, which is something I also love. When I was going into this, was how in Matthew 20:25 through 28, Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you, you must be a servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. But just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, to give his life as ransom for many." And I think it was put beautifully where it says the government or authority exists to serve those who are governed. And I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the moment the government is no longer serving its people,
mm-hmm.
it needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Because I feel like God put those people in charge to serve the people. What do you think?
At any position of leadership, your main goal is to serve.
Mm-hmm.
That's been proven. The best leaders are the leaders who serve the people below them. They lead by example. They take care of the people below them, and yeah, they lead by serving. When they try to lead by control, by fear, by anything but serving or love, then you see them either, well, you may see them rise really quickly, but at the end of the day, their people are going to hate them, they're not going to do as well, and they're going to fail sooner than they would have wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you are placed in a position of leadership, you are called to serve.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main point of that. So, yeah, I was trying to think back to the leadership book that I read, Dichotomy of Leadership, is written by Jocko Willings. Willings. I heard it off of a podcast, but basically goes over the dichotomy of leadership, which is the balance between two extremes. The one common one is the dichotomy of like ownership. So do you take ownership of everything that everybody does within your business, or do you let people take the ownership while guiding them through that?
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a balance between taking all the ownership or taking none of the ownership.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a balance. So you can't be a CEO and continuously making the coffee every morning, or you can't serve everybody's like whims, wants, needs, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Serve them in what best serves them,
Mm-hmm.
what gives back to them, what grows them as a person. But you can't be doing everything for them,
Mm-hmm.
I think is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's a distinction. If you are placed in a leadership position, is serve, but don't I won't say don't overdo it, but don't micromanage that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be so focused on serving everybody that you don't give them a chance to do it on their own. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you try to do it for them, they're not going to learn, they're not going to grow, they're not going to be the person that you want them to be, or that you can see them to be. So that is a very like fine line between overdoing it and underdoing it.
All right, and this is the last segment of our news, is the rumored Messiah in Israel. Now, the reason why I left this for last is because how little information we have on this.
Okay.
And I wanted to bring it up because it's kind of making the rounds through social media, but interesting enough, it's being suppressed.
In social media?
I found one journalistic article.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. One journalistic article out of everything going on.
Wow.
So basically there are a few Israeli rabbi leaders
Mm-hmm.
who's claimed that they've met the Messiah. They have now had the Messiah here, and they said that this Messiah has done some miracles such as healing the blind and making them see, healing this and that. But it's interesting because there's like no reports on it. Now, I wanted to bring this up specifically to remind everybody, like, once you hear this stuff, that Jesus said in Matthew 24:5, "For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will mislead many." And there are countless of verses where Jesus says, "Hey, by the way, people are going to come in my name like this." But I just find it interesting how I was saying this, and I want to know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
How when we study Revelation, and the end times are coming, and the prophecies are being fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
The Euphrates River is not completely dried up, but it is starting to dry up, such as that. And it's interesting to see. My main thing was this: if Jesus came back during our time, how would that look? Would more people know about him because of social media? Blah 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 blah. And I feel like we're getting our answer now, based on certain things being like fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
or people claiming that they are the Christ, and how it's like silence.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it can't get out, which I find really interesting. So part of me is like, how do you feel social media will play in a part with all this going on? And do you think this person will become bigger, or will it be suppressed still?
I think the uneducated, the people who don't search out the who this person is, who this person was, the facts, I think they could definitely be swept away with, oh, dude, he, like, I saw a video of him healing it, like, or like, and of course, like, most people, like, they'll see a video and be like, nah, that's like, I think people nowadays, if they see a video, they're like, yeah, no, that probably didn't happen. Like, they need proof in front of them. They need to see it in person. They need to experience it. So I think a lot of people will fall into that category. As far as the end times, and I think you're referring to the Antichrist in this specific news report, or like this specific current
I'm not
event.
saying Antichrist. I think it's just a false Christ, because it does mention how some people will come saying they're the Christ, but they're not the Antichrist. They're just the false Christ.
Okay.
So I think, in my opinion, even though I don't know fully what's going on, except for like, just to give you a little information of what the article says, Rabbi Yaakov Sakush told the Religious Broadcast Radio 2000 that Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky had told him that he was in direct contact with the Messiah. And in their interview, he talks about there's a potential Messiah in every generation. There are righteous men who know precisely who it is. This, of course, is true in every generation. And getting word out to know out now that the Messiah is closer than ever is a matter of life and death. So stuff like that. And then people talk about how, like, Rabbi Cook responded that when the Messiah arrives, the Sea of Galilee will be full. In a few weeks, the Sea of Galilee will be full for the first time. And the Sea of Galilee was full since the first time, like, this rabbi made that statement. So people are, like, kind of really reading into stuff. And it's kind of all over the place. But for me personally, is like, Scripture says the Antichrist will survive a fatal wound. That's Scripture.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, if I see somebody that they're like claiming as this religious authority and everything, and they like survives a fatal wound, then I'm like, then there's my answer. But it also says that there will be false prophets and there will be false Christ. So in my opinion, since this is like suppressed in a sense, in my opinion, do your own research, guys, listeners, viewers, do your own research. I think it's just the false Christ.
I mean, I would agree, but also another thing is, like, it says that the Antichrist will be beloved by all. Like, everybody will like him. So, to me, kind of an early sign, of course. Like, if it's being suppressed, then it's like, maybe not. As for false Christ, I mean, we've had people over the generations come, the guy that said, drink this Kool-Aid, and then everybody died, but they believed he was Christ. It was cult movements like that. So, I mean, I personally believe that it'd probably be a false Christ. I don't think we're quite there yet for the end times. But, of course, it does say that it'll come like a thief in the night. So, like, we won't know that it's coming. It'll be here. Like, we won't have a 30-day notice. It'll just arrive. So.
No, I agree with that, because when I was doing this research, I was also like, I found this. I did not know this, but in 1665, a man named Shabbatai Zvi was born on August 1st, 1626. But basically, he was a gifted scholar, and he claimed that he was indeed the Messiah. So this is going to be happening. FYI, listeners and viewers. Like, and the fact that, like, nobody knew about. I didn't even know about this dude.
Yeah.
But he was convinced. He was convinced that he was the Messiah. So, like, do some research on that. Shabbatai Zvi.
You want to spell it for him?
Shabbetai, and then Zevi. But yeah, he was born in 1626. And he claims that he was the Messiah. Yeah. So, like, stuff like that's going to be happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I feel like one thing that we need to reiterate is when we see stuff like this happen, it's not a sense of like discouragement, but encouragement that Jesus is coming back, right? But also, it shouldn't make you go, all right, now I gotta stack up on food. It's no like go tell your freaking neighbor about Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of Matthew, he calls us to the Great Commission, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He calls us to go out and spread the word, not to hold up and wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing good ever happens when you just try to wait for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, good things do come to those who actively wait, doing something while waiting for it. They're building themselves up for it. But passive waiting, nothing good is ever going to come from passively waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, that's all I have to say. Let's thank you guys for joining. Please subscribe, follow on Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, leave a like, comment down below what you guys want us to cover or talk about. Let us know how you do. Your thoughts are super important to us. We love your feedback. So,
yeah, I mean that's the comments, the feedback, the likes, all of that. That tells us how we're doing. That tells us what you want to see, and we're doing this for y'all. So it's not something that. Like, oh, we want to talk about this. This is how we're going to do it. We're doing what we love already. We want to talk about things that y'all want to hear about. So let us know down in the comments, just kind of wherever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, basically Badkin Media.
Mm-hmm.
Badkin Media on all of those. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat.
Snapchat now.
Oh, that's Snapchat.
Spotlight.
Let's go.
Let's go, guys.
Yeah. You can find my personal account at JohnHunt ____ if you want yours.
And then my personal is actually a Vilches, VILCHEZ. If you guys want to see some more of our stuff. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. We're gonna pray out. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here together to talk about and have the ability to express how we think and how we feel, and be able to bring glory to you, Lord. Help us to have you at the center of all of our lives in everything that we do. Give us wisdom and knowledge, and to remember where we are and remember who you are, Lord. And I pray for all the people in Iran, that I pray that you will assist all those people who are suffering, that you will remind them who you are and show them your love, so they will be encouraged in all these trials. And then the people in China as well, those who are in mourning of all the people that were lost in the fire, allow them to have peace upon them and to have a willing heart to learn more about you. And then the people in Jerusalem, in Israel as well, your people, allow them, even though they are hard-headed and stubborn people, as you like to call them in the Bible, they are your people, and let them know that you love them and that you want them in your life. And allow that door to be open, and allow us to be able to continue to spread your gospel, because it is such a privilege and you're amazing. And thank you for all that you've done. I pray for all the people out there and give them encouragement in all that do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right.
Love y'all.
Thank you for joining, y'all.
Bye.